Free, I am free, ever free in myself. I am free, I am free, ever free in myself. I am free, I am joyful, I am free in myself. I am free, I am blissful, ever free in myself. I am free, I am formless, ever free in myself. I am free, I am nameless, ever free in myself. I am free. Hello friends, Nayaswami Hriman here again. It's the daily broadcast of the unpublished writings of Paramhansa Yogananda, and I am at the Blue Lotus Temple in Bothell, Washington, just north of Seattle. So once again, I have a poem for you written by Paramhansa Yogananda in 1926, September. He entitles this poem, Whether in the Prison House. Whether in the prison house of loneliness, or heaven of blissful solitude, whether fettered by the chains of labor, or resting idly in the peace of long-deserved rest, I care not so long as thou art with me. Whether in mosque, church, or temple, it matters little if I love not thy house and its creed more than thee. In the revolving wheels of factories, I want to feel thy pulsing, marching life. If thou art in the factory, I prefer that to heaven without thee. Whether in Himalayan caves or crowded subway, whether in jungles of modern life or of Hindustan, wherever we go, teach us to discover thee in all thy secret nooks, east, west, north, south, everywhere. This is the eternal teaching of all spirituality and the basis for all religions. To seek God, to know God, to serve God, to be one with the Spirit. I may have mentioned even yesterday, but I watched recently a documentary by I think a filmmaker named David Snow. He documented the life of the Sherpas who assist in mountain climbing. It was focused on Everest, although Sherpas go to Pakistan and other places too to serve as guides and carriers for the expeditions up the mountain. And there was a young Sherpa who had moved to Kathmandu, where it's a lot easier to get these jobs. You know, Kathmandu is the main city of Nepal, the capital, I believe. And relative to the rest of Nepal, Kathmandu is a pretty hip place. That's relative, of course, but nonetheless, it's kind of a swinging place. I was there in 1976, I think it was, and it was pretty hot stuff back then. But what was interesting to me was that this young man, good-looking fellow, educated, and so on, when it came to the mountaineering work that he did, and really to his life in general, they showed him as very pious. And of course, you know, climbing Mount Everest, people die, and it's pretty easy to, know atheists and foxholes, as they say. So it's hardly a surprise that the Sherpas, indeed the mountaineers themselves, suddenly get a bit pious before they go up the mountain. That's true, but nonetheless, they depicted this young man as, chanting the Om Mani Padme Hum, the great mantra of Buddhism, and going through these pujas, very elaborate ceremonies, and with the prayer flags. It's all very sweet and interesting and so forth. But it reminded me of a puzzler that I've had most of my life. I grew up in a faith tradition, as most of my friends know all too well, Catholic tradition. But as I like to say, I outgrew it. I didn't reject it or deny it or rebel so much against it as I just expanded into a more universal view. And there wasn't any trauma or that kind of thing associated with it. But what's puzzled me all my life is when I see young people, educated and born, let's just say in America now, who just simply take the old-time religion, even though they have modern jobs and work in various emerging fields, technology being, or science or something, it just has always puzzled me. Why is it people don't see that there's a broader reality in the realm of spirit, in the realm of spirituality? What seemed so obvious to me in the 60s with Eastern philosophy and all that kind of thing, of course I realized, well, I guess I was just had that samskara, that I was born with to do this, what I have done spiritually speaking. Okay, I can accept that, but it still puzzled me why people just keep carrying on the old stuff and this kind of thing. And but when I was walking in the door to my house, maybe yesterday or something, I suddenly found at least a kind of an answer. I'm sure there's several levels to this sort of thing for those people. It's simply their samskars and their karma to, stick with the old-time religion, I guess. But for example, I have a brother who's a wonderful soul. He's a Catholic priest and in a right-wing movement for whom even the current Pope is an apostate. That's how traditional they are. It's sort of like they're stuck in 1950s Catholicism, or what was that guy, Bing Crosby, and 1920s, 30s, 40s, I would say 1940s Catholicism. And it's sweet, but anyway, so as I walked in the door, I don't know why this just flashed on me, but this has been a lifelong question. I just really puzzled over this. And I realized, well, I might have 10 years of life left, okay, maybe 15, something like that, or less. And what I realized is in the last period of my life, I have felt myself, it's not rational, but it's like, we're in the fourth quarter, or in the top of the ninth, and of life. And I've been on the spiritual path for many decades, and I certainly would consider myself serious to it, but something has shifted. And I guess I'd have to admit it's somewhat fear-related. Death is coming, you better get your act together. It's not quite that logical or rational or conscious, but I can feel now one reason why people stick to what's traditional. And the easy answer is to say it's fear. Another easy answer, it would say it's easy. Another answer would say, well, it's traditional. But it's also comfortable. And that's sort of what I'm getting at. Somewhere between fear and comfort, there's a compulsion, a need, and where you got to have that security. Maybe that's really the word I'm going for, is security. Because you're facing the unknown of life. Whether you're young and beginning, I don't recall being particularly fearful, at least at the time. But when I look back, I remember, for example, when I went off to study for the priesthood. I was approaching high school, and so this was a preparatory. It wasn't the official college thing. But it was clear to me that, the 60s, things were getting real cuckoo, and I just wasn't ready for that. And I think I defaulted in that decision to do that to what was comfortable and secure. Now, I outgrew that in a year or two. It wasn't my destiny. And I was aware of that even at that time, but it didn't really sink in until really more recently, that what brings people and keeps people in the old-time religion is that safety, that security, those boundaries, and so on. Now, that's probably not the greatest revelation you've ever heard, but it has been a question in my life, and it has its application in the Ananda world, Inasmuch as Swami Kriyananda in the 80s, he came up with the beautiful Sunday service ceremony, the Festival of Light, and some other ceremonies, and he has encouraged us. He's long gone now, but he was encouraging us to get out of our rented office building, yoga center type facilities and establish ourselves more permanently in our own places. And I realized even that, what a change there was when we built this beautiful Blue Lotus temple. People began to take us more seriously. And I realized that I could come to Ananda village with maybe 60 to 100 people or whatever it was back when. And, teepees and all that. I didn't need those beautiful buildings, and I didn't need all those rituals, and I didn't need all of that, you might say, public acceptance, although we're not particularly publicly accepted in the self-realization line, but it's becoming that. But most people do. So I have realized that in different ways. And the comfort that ritual and ceremony provide to people and things that they're familiar with, well, we all have our version of that. It can be in relationships. It can be, in jobs. I know when I actually was interested in becoming an aeronautical engineer. But then, though I lived in California at the time, had nothing to do with Seattle, knew nothing about Seattle, I remember that industry bombed, and there was the joke up here in Seattle of last one out, turn off the lights. So I switched. And what did I switch to? Accounting. It was what my father did and what most of my brothers and family have done. So I defaulted to that which was familiar, you see? And that's not been something I've been all that conscious of. And what happens as you get older is you become more aware of that. So it's, maybe I'm sharing just some personal kind of thing here, but when I think of this poem in which Master Yoganandaji talks about, it doesn't matter what religion you are, as long as I have God. This is the new paradigm, the new dispensation of spirituality is, as Jesus said, kingdom of heaven is within you. Yet very few people are ready for that. It's not just a matter of courage. It wasn't particularly courageous for me to take up meditation and expand outside the comfort zone of Catholicism. I was born for that. And so, but not many people are yet there. And I think that's helpful to know for those of us who are trying to share this great new dispensation, this message of self-realization. People will come when they're ready, when they're in tune with the message, and that's okay. All right, great souls, we learn, don't we? We learn new adventures day after day, week after week, and that's mine, and I'm sticking with it. Okay, be well, be happy.